We now move on to the next session, which is the Khaki Files Inside Stories of Police Missions, stories from policing investigation and life inside the system. Please welcome once again on stage Neeraj Kumar, former Commissioner of Delhi Police and author of Khaki Files, in conversation with sports journalist Sharda Ugra.
I'm surprised after the session, which was fiction and detectives, is a real police, real crimes, real person here. More people should have been here. Anyway, welcome everyone. And I have to tell you two things about what I'm really happy to do this session. I do love reading crime fiction, but I know Mr. Neeraj Kumar since the time when he was in the CBI, and we had the first report on CBI match fixing in 2000. And then after that, it's almost like cricket corruption. It's like every time it happens, he's there telling us the truth as to what's been going on. The 2013 case as well, towards the end of his career. And so the Khaki Files, I started reading the book thinking it's about stories about tough cases that have been solved and so on. And every story I finished, I was just astounded at the degree of boring work that it took to get to where it did, the degree of providence, and the degree of determination with which the police just went after what they were looking for. And every story and every chapter I read, I said, oh, this is really good. This is the best one. I mean, it's great. We have to talk about this. And then I went on to the next one and the next one and the next one. And there are sort of 9 chapters of 9 stories that involve terrorist attacks, gangsters, assassination attempts on journalists. We are grateful that the police was trying to protect a couple of us, and they didn't know about it. But I'll just begin very, very quickly by asking Sir next to me, looking over your career of almost 40 years in the police force, in law enforcement and so on, has it changed? Did you change as a policeman itself from the time you began till the time you retired? Did your view of crime and criminals change in any way?
First of all, good afternoon and thank you for coming. It's only appropriate that I'm in conversation with a sports journalist because all of policing is a game. And it is not surprising that I have to answer your first question by saying that, well, change we do. We change naturally. We change every day. We evolve every day. But as a police officer, well, I underwent a lot of changes. First of all, one goes on learning every day new things, and one goes on improving one's craft, so to say. And I went on from one big case to another. And yeah, by the time I retired, I do think that even though essentially I was the same person, but I had changed a hell of a lot.
What about your view of criminals, would you say, or crime as it's said? Why do people commit crime? What is the reason that they go to, whether it's even being, I mean, and you tell the story. I mean, I'm not going to, there are no spoilers. I'm not going to, there are no spoilers in this conversation because you have to read the book. There are stories there that will totally astound you. So what about crime itself? What leads people to crime? Why do they get into the various things that they get into? We're assuming it's desperation and so on, but you've seen them, you've talked to them, you've seen them face to face.
Well, there's a whole subject to dealing with why people commit crime, and that is called criminology. And people commit crime for various reasons. But I think what comes across as a common cause is perhaps to make uh, to make amends for something that has gone wrong. If a poor man commits crime to make a living, he is, making corrections, or shall we say, setting something right for what has gone wrong with him personally in his life. He does not have the means to a good living as others around him do. if somebody kills somebody else, commits murder, it is always for a very strong reason, because normally nobody would kill for a small cause. But suffice it to say that different kinds of crime are committed by different sets of people. And what is most interesting is that when you find people committing crime when they don't need to have done it. And one such case is, of course, the cricket match fixing, or the cricket, people who are making tons of money in any case, who have fame, who have money, and yet they get lured by small sums of cash to give away their conscience, sell it, and uh, that is somewhere where logic and all science fails you, and you realize that quite often people commit crime when they need not have done it.
One of the questions, one of the things you always hear about the police, you read about it enormously in crime fiction. They say that the policeman can tell when people are lying. Is that true?
Uh, well, anyone can tell whether the other person is telling the truth or not, because there are some giveaways. But because you are on the job of a policeman, and also because of your training, you are trained to pick up those little hints and make out whether the other person is lying or not. But it is not always fail proof. Sometimes we go wrong, and sometimes we go terribly wrong, even if a person is telling you something with confidence that, well, he has committed the crime, and he will describe the crime in great detail, how he committed it, and you take it that he is the man, and then subsequent investigation shows that he was not your man. And
Are there any examples that you remember?
yeah,
from your,
I remember my very early years of my service. I was then an additional DCP in Daryaganj in Delhi, and there was a series of robberies, and a set of people had been arrested, and they informed me, the team which had arrested that gang informed me, and I went and I asked them, and they said, yes, we have committed the crime, and this is how we did it, and it fitted into the whole story perfectly. And then the next day, another colleague of mine, who was a much older person, but he was an ACP, and he said, sir, what about those cases? I said, don't you know that they have already been solved? He said, sir, I want you to accompany me today to so and so place, and you will meet the real culprits. I said, what do you mean, real culprits? He said, sir, you please come. So I went there, and I was I was face to face with another set of people, and they said they had committed the crime, and they gave all the details with a few differences here and there. And why they were the real culprits was because things had been recovered from them, the things that had been stolen. And it so happened later, when I went back to the earlier lot, I found out that because they were tortured, and that is why they confessed to have committed those crimes, and they had given the story that were given to them by their interrogators, that you say that this is how you committed it, so that our seniors feel happy and we get rewards and so on and so forth. So at times you slip up in a big way, and you have to be on the watch. You have to be very careful and not always take things on face value, or not always go by what your juniors tell you, because the truth lies somewhere else.
yesterday when I was speaking to sir, I said, what are these clues that people give? And so he said two things. He said people swallow and then they pause before answering. Was that what?
And also the way their eye movement takes place, that also gives them away quite often. So these are some of the little clues that you have to look out for.
And he also and he said that the people that are toughest to kind of break, shall we say, to use a phrase, are white collar criminals. They are actually the most formidable, if I may use the word. For
Yes, today, most of the crime is, say, if we were to put an amount of money on all the regular crimes. By regular crimes, I mean burglaries, thefts, pickpocketing, robberies, even dacoities. And I would put them in one category where a common man is generally affected. If you put an amount of money, if you add up the total money, that would be a minuscule amount of the money that is being made by white collar criminals. And we don't realize it. Little mention of it was made yesterday also in one of the sessions I attended. It goes into hundreds and thousands of crores by people who are in uh, power and position to deprive, cheat people of those sums of money, usually public money, taxpayers' money, and they get away scot free. And it's happening round the clock, right under our noses. We know it is happening, but we are helpless because that is what the system is. So, white collar criminal, whether it happens in India or whether it happens all over the world, uh, is far worse, and it is far detrimental to common people than the regular crimes. But we look at a pickpocket with disgust. But we will be very happily sipping chai or coffee, or even having a drink with a white collar criminal who has made tons of money by cheating people, by defrauding public wealth, and so on and so forth. And we marry our children into their families and so on. But they are all thieves, to put it straight.
what is your? I know we didn't discuss this yesterday. What is your take on the crime fiction? Do you read crime fiction yourself? Maybe if it's been asked to you before, I apologize, but I should have checked with you yesterday. Do you read crime fiction? What do you make of crime fiction? How accurate is it in India, particularly when you're watching shows, say, for example, that come out of books?
No, you see, crime fiction is fiction after all. So it is far away from the truth, far away from how it happens in real life, and most of all, how they are detected. A crime novel has to be made interesting, it has to be made pacey, and it has to have false leads, red herrings, and so on and so forth. But real crime is something else. And that is why perhaps true crime is not liked as much as, fictionalized crime. Because even though truth is stranger than fiction, uh, people find the other sort, fictionalized crime, because it has more masala, more spice to it. So they prefer fictionalized crime to true crime. But believe me, even when you see on television or on one of these OTT platforms, if you see the series which are made on true crime, at the end of it, you will find it far more interesting than what you would find in a fictionalized situation.
The book is full of cases that sir has dealt with. This is the attack on Parliament. This is that there's a scam around lotteries, a massive lottery scam. There's dealing with politicians in Goa. So I'm just giving you little sneaky bits. And perhaps the most interesting part of this is that a lot of it, like he's saying, that crime fiction is sort of created. You keep getting red herrings and things are happening. A lot of police work is very boring. You're just following up and following up, and it's like journalism. You're following up and looking for boring facts. You're going on and on and on, and then there's a point in time where it's not a you don't get a burst of something or the other. There's actually a great stroke of luck that happens. So there are incidents here in which an unemployed friend of a police officer who was spending time with him asked him, "What's the matter with you? Why are you so upset?" And then when it was explained to him, he was able to crack a code that was able to. Of course, I can tell them because it's in the book. A bomb attack planned, a series of explosions around India Gate, and he was able to crack this unemployed youth was able to crack the case based on fairly simple logic and which has helped the police prevent that attack from taking place. Similarly, there's a taxi driver who was cleaning his cab when the police were looking to reach this individual, this doctor in Mumbai who was who everyone said was the mastermind. They'd come to the conclusion of all the bomb explosions on railway trains and in parts of Mumbai at one point in time. How much of police work do you think it's the boring work that leads to the luck, or it's just luck is luck and it happens to you when it's...
No, like in golf, one person was asked that, how is it that you are so good? Don't you think you are consider yourself lucky? He says it's strange, but the more I practice, the luckier I get. So that is how it is in policing also. See, unless you stir out of your chair, unless you go out in the field, unless you make investigations, you have to create a situation in which the lady luck is going to smile at you. Unless you do that groundwork, that situation will not arise where something will turn up. It will be by plain stroke of luck, but you have created a situation around yourself stroke
Is there
of
an
luck.
example that you can give for to get people more interested into? I've given them little bits, but
That, for instance, the story you were talking about, a colleague of mine, he went to Jammu and Kashmir in connection with an investigation. He goes there, he meets with a BSF officer, and he says that in case you have any diaries or any notes that you have recovered from terrorists who have been killed in encounters, I would be interested in taking a look. So the BSF officer is kind enough to share with him some of the documents that he had recovered from dead terrorists. And there he makes a mental note of an email address that was mentioned in one of the documents. And when he comes back to Delhi, my colleague begins to work on that email address. And he finds that the email address is still active. That means that the dead terrorist was in touch with somebody who was using that email address, and this person he was in touch with is still using that address. And then he begins to track all the emails that are coming to that email, and one thing leads to another, and to his horror, he finds that they begin to communicate with each other in codes. At some stage, he is able to decipher the code, and we come to know that what is happening, and we come to the conclusion that there is a bomb attack going to happen in Delhi. But we don't know where. Now, the exact location where the bomb attack is going to happen, the codes change. Now there are a new set of codes that are being employed, which we are unable to decipher. That means the Delhi Police Special Cell, which I was heading, special cell deals with cases of terrorism in Delhi. I was the Joint Commissioner of Police then, leading the team. We failed to decipher that code. And you imagine our state that we are aware that a bomb attack is imminent, but we don't know where. The messages are all there, they are in codes, and we are not able to crack the code. So we approached the Intelligence Bureau. The Intelligence Bureau, they use their best people at cracking codes. They use all kinds of tools that they have at their disposal. They fail. Then, believe it or not, they go to army intelligence. The army people, they try their luck. You know, all kinds of agencies are, government agencies are, I mean, we are even prepared to go abroad and contact people overseas to help us crack that code, but nobody is able to help. And then what Sharda mentioned, this colleague of mine who had got the email address from J&K, he's sitting there, and one school friend of his has come to visit him because that school friend called Vivek is looking for a job, has come to Delhi looking for a job. And he said, "Sir, what is it? Why are you so upset and so edgy?" He said, "Well, you don't know what's happening. Here I am, and I'm not able to crack this code, and the city is going to be blasted." He says, "May I have a look?" He takes a look at the code, and he begins to work at it. Meanwhile, the ACP moves out of his office, goes elsewhere, comes back again. This man is still working, sitting on the sofa in his office, working on the code. And then, meanwhile, I, as Joint CP, who was, already suffering panic attacks in my office, I call up this ACP that you come to my office immediately, because I had to report to my bosses that what progress we had made. And this young man, his friend, the ACP brings him along, and he, on the way from his office to my office, which was good 30 minutes away, he cracks the code. And when they come to my office, they say, "Sir, we have done it." He says, "How have you done it?" And he says, "Sir, I must give the credit to the person who should get it, and he's sitting outside. May I call him in?" I said, "Please do." And in walks this thin guy. He's barely out of college, and he says, "Sir, the target was India Gate." And then he shows how he had worked it. And once you know how to the key to the code, then it becomes very, very simple. And then you curse yourself that why couldn't you do it yourself? And you also wonder that how is it that everyone failed and this guy could work it out? But that's how it is. So the point I'm trying to make is that this is luck, that somebody walks into your office and he helps you crack a code which you have been working at for so long and everyone else has failed at. But you have created a situation where that stroke of luck has come your way.
You can call it whatever.
Yes, yes.
But
Serendipity also.
serendipity is accident. But the point is, what I think Sir is saying is that you have created a situation where all of you are constantly trying to get that thing fixed. And the reason why you should read this book is because there are a couple more instances like this. And our thought is always, suppose it hadn't happened, what would have happened? But the point is that it did, because the environment around it. I was just thinking that maybe they should put that code up on a wall and say, "Now solve it, all of you crime writers and crime editors," and say, "Now you crack this code and tell us."
And I must tell you, sorry, Sharda, I interjected. When my senior shared the information with the higher up, the then Home Minister, Mr. Advani, the army was deployed there. They decided to deploy the army at India Gate. And the whole area of India Gate was banned to public. And surely we could not catch those people. Unfortunately, we missed catching the terrorist who had come to carry out the blast. We missed them by a whisker. But when they would have come close to India Gate, they would have seen tanks around. So that is the level of reaction that the government showed, and that is how accurate the information was. And you can imagine, shortly after the Parliament House attack case, this incident happened, and we already were in the middle of the, Operation Parakram, when we were eyeball to eyeball with the Pakis across the border, and similar attack had happened in India Gate. India and Pakistan would have gone to war for sure. And you can imagine what kind of, even nobody can imagine actually what all it could have led to. And nobody realizes what we were able to prevent, the quality and the magnitude of the good work that the police was able to do, even though a member of public, an innocent member of public, helped us in doing it. But that is of no consequence. The point is a very serious incident which could have led to a certain war with Pakistan and colossal losses and all kinds of geopolitical chain of events that was prevented because of some work done by two or three police officers put together. So while on the one hand one should understand that you get lucky when you create a situation by your hard work around yourself for luck to come your way, you should also realize that even though what we see on the police officers, what they actually do and what they're able to prevent, we never get to know. And now I am sure that not anyone in this audience knew about this incident, that there was going to be an attack on India Gate that was prevented by the Delhi police. Nobody knows about it. And nobody knows that a sure war with Pakistan was averted. So that is how it goes.
And it started with your colleague asking for the emails and the addresses and some documentation on the part of debtor, and it started with checking that one single email.
Yes, and mind you, for the BSF officer, those documents were of no use. He could have very well given him but he was very cagey and he was very, protective about them. So, but yet this man, this officer of mine called Pramod Kushwaha, he made a mental note of an email address, and he came back and on his own, he started to work on it. And so, this is a clear example of how luck comes your way if you create a situation for it to do, and also a good example of how the local police does prevent very serious crimes from happening, which goes totally unnoticed and unaccounted and unrecognized.
Unheralded and celebrated, and so on. I remember in connection with this 2013 case, I met one of the police officers that was there, and he was saying, he said, the difference between the police and the army. He's saying the army is all boot polish and noise and brasso and all that. He's saying we are the ones who are ghisawing our juta on the road and going and doing all the work. No disrespects to the army or the police. So I wanted to ask you, in the time that you began working till now, technology has played a great part in sort of changing policing in a way. Could you just tell them, maybe people in the audience who have no idea what was technology when you began, and now we are sort of doing mobile phone tracking and all the rest of it. What was the kind of things that happened? What was your methods and in the old days, and the use that technology has played now?
Sharda, even mobile phone tracking is now passe, because everyone has come to know, including the criminals and more so the terrorists, that mobile phones can be cracked. They have also come to know that emails can be tracked. So they are on to, VoIP, voice over internet protocol, and this and that. And they also use scramblers and the various apps that are available now uh, to make sure that whatever you communicate remains a secret. Uh, Technology, as has life in general, changed dramatically since. I joined the police in 1976. Between 1976 and 2026, it's 50 years. Life has, like our lives have changed thanks to technology in multiple ways. So has policing, and so has crime. And I have no hesitation in admitting that the criminals are always a step ahead of us. We are always catching up to them, because they come up with newer ways. You look at cybercrime, for instance, and things like this digital arrest, which was being talked about in the earlier session. The digital crime or digital arrest and things like this was unthinkable during our time. And I must say that I retired in 2013. Till 2013 there were stray cases of such crimes, cyber crimes, but now cyber crimes are the order of the day. And you don't have to rob a bank by going there and showing a gun. You can rob a bank sitting in your room on your laptop. So, and that's what is happening all over the world. Therefore, uh, things have changed, but we have to catch up. The police, the law enforcement has to catch up with the criminals, and we have also evolved our technologies, and we managed to neutralize them in good time.
I think we've got a very 5 minutes is what you're saying. Oh, you're saying 10. Okay, great. Okay, I've got two questions more. Does anything shock you anymore? Are you shocked by anything now? You've had this life, and I'm sure you're talking to the police and your former colleagues and current juniors all the time, and worse and worse and worse things we hear.
Not really, because in the police you get to see such horrid things and such weird things, and the most unexpected things. And like we talked about cricket, that why should so and so have thrown away a match just for a few? So nothing really shocks you. You have seen white collar criminals uh, commit crime, when they are already so much money they already have. There's no need for them to commit more crime. They could have, very easily moved to the south of France and lived cozily thereafter, happily thereafter. But uh, people still commit crime because the opportunities are there and so on. So nothing really shocks me, but once in a while you do come across an incident. For example, the incident I mentioned to you yesterday, that after the Parliament House attack, when the police was combing the building, it got into somebody's room, and there was nobody in the room. So police first thought that there's no one here and it's all clean. And suddenly we heard a phone ring, a mobile phone ring. And so the police officer went and saw somebody hiding under his desk. And it was a very, very prominent minister of the government then. Now that was very, very shocking because the person involved and his personality and his aura and his level and his caliber and all. So that was shocking.
Let me end with cricket. There's a terrific discussion, a story that we have yesterday about the Hansi Cronje case. I don't know if any of you follow it like sort of obsessively and forensically like cricket fans do. There is on rediff.com. There's an entire the entire CBI report into match fixing is still there. You can download bits of it and read it, including my favorite story, 64 calls from one bookie to Ajay Jadeja. It's just mind blowing. And somebody said, my wife will not call me that many times, before a match. This was before a match. So, and that whole story and how people have forgotten about that report. It had some of the biggest names in cricket were there in it. So I was a part of that investigation that was there. And the person who sort of spilt the beans was a gentleman called M.K. Gupta. So why don't you tell them about the M.K. Gupta story that we discussed yesterday? Because we have the time. We have the time. Yeah.
Okay, so the lid on the uh, Muhammad Azharuddin saga was lifted by a man called M.K. Gupta. M.K. Gupta, I'm sure not many of you have heard of him. He was the fountainhead, or shall we say the godfather, or shall we say the brain behind this idea of match fixing in cricket. He is the original, shall we say, initiator of corruption in cricket. And who was M.K. Gupta? M.K. Gupta, very briefly, was a bank clerk who was working in a branch in Chandni Chowk. And while returning to office every day, he will find a group of people, huddling around one place. And he would inquire what is happening, and he would come to know that people are betting on cricket. So he would observe, and he was a very intelligent man. He realized that people are betting blindly, without any logic, without any reasoning. They were betting and they were losing money. And he realized that if you have some information about a match, for instance, if you know what the weather conditions are, or if you know what the playing 11 is, or if you know who is going to um, uh, you know open the batting, and you can predict the outcome of the match far more ably than somebody who has no information. Of course, you should be able to interpret it. So MK Gupta began to put bets, but after studying, and he had no idea about cricket. He learned about the game by and by. He would go and watch matches at Roshanara Club, and he learned the basics of cricket. And there he also came across a youngster who was doing very well. So he realized that that youngster, who was very promising, had no cricket kit. So he helped him first buy a pair of cricket shoes, then buy him some more kit. And he said that if you give me information about so and so match, I'll give you more. And if you make it to the Delhi team, and if you give me information about the composition, I'll give you more. And like that, a relationship between MK Gupta and this guy, who was none other than a man called Ajay Sharma, developed. Ajay Sharma rose to play for India at a later stage. He traveled with the Indian team to New Zealand, and from New Zealand, he would pass on information to MK Gupta, very vital information about various things.
I just interrupt you. This is the pre-internet age.
Yes.
This is pre-internet, and telephone calls are.
Yes, yes. So he'll book a call, and he'll get the information. And he started to put money on things based on the information that he had received from Ajay Sharma from overseas, from New Zealand. And he began to win, and he began to make money, and he began to pay. And he told Ajay Sharma that when you come back from that match, if you do not make it to the Indian team again, because it didn't do well there, then you have to put me on to somebody else. And so Ajay Sharma put him on to, Manoj Prabhakar. And then Manoj Prabhakar traveled to England with the Indian team. And Manoj Prabhakar helped him with lots of information. He went on making money. Manoj Prabhakar then put him on to Jadeja, and Muhammad Azharuddin, and so on. And eventually, he could fix matches. I mean, you are not only betting on whether a team is going to win or not win, you are able to make sure that a certain team loses. The match is thrown away by that team, and the other team wins. So that is the whole idea of match fixing. We should all be very proud of this fact that one of us, he was the originator, he was the person,
But you should
and
be
he was
proud of the fact that he came to you to confess. Yeah.
yeah, that is a matter of chance, matter of luck. So at one stage, this when the match fixing inquiry was going on, uh, some another team was investigating the case, but I got a message from MK Gupta that he wanted to surrender to me. And I said, why to me? I'm not doing that case. No, no, sir. He has seen you in some public meeting because you had come to address a traders union meeting, and this man was there. And so I went and met him at Hotel Oberoi. He told me the story of his life, and he said that I want to surrender. So he surrendered to me, and I handed him over to the team which was investigating. The director CBI asked me to take over that case, but I said no. I am happy doing what I'm doing, but I'll hand him over to him. So he gave all the information on Muhammad Azharuddin, Jadeja, and other players. And he had, by the way, by then fixed not only Indian players, he had fixed the highest and the mightiest of the cricket world, including people like Arjun Ranatunga, Arvinder De Silva, Brian Lara, Alex Stewart, you name a person.
It's all in that file.
It is all, the names are all there, his statements are there, and virtually the entire cricketing world was fixed by one man and an Indian, MK Gupta.
I think so. Nothing to be happy about, but okay, I suppose. Yeah, so I think we've just run out of time. Maybe Sir can offline address your questions. Please do buy this book. It is fantastic. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for engaging with us. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Lovely to, and a great honor to have been here.